It's the Blues Rock Show with Pete Francis and Willie Witten.
Welcome to the Blues Rock Show. I'm Pete Francis, joined by Willie Witten. Today, our special guest is Robert John Burrison of Robert John and the Wreck. They've got the new album coming out on September 3rd. Shine a Light on Me, Brother. Robert, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
One thing I want to ask you about is songwriting. Now, Robert John and the Wreck, you guys have been around for about a decade now, and you guys have been very prolific on the scene, releasing a lot of albums in that time. And not only are you guys releasing a lot of albums, but the quality has remained very high. So I want to ask you about your songwriting. You've been so prolific. What inspires you to keep going?
I think it's just built into our DNA. If we wait too long and we're not writing, we all kind of feel that feeling together about getting back in the room and writing songs together. And we all do it cohesively together. We all bring out different pieces of the puzzle and we put them together as a group to form a record or just a song, depending on where we're at the time. And we just, everyone's different when it comes to inspiration. Sometimes one of us will be super inspired because they're going through something, and someone else might be just in a different place and just like, you know what, take the reins on this song, because right now I'm not in that mood. But because there's five of us, we all going through different things, especially this past year. When we're all on the road together, we're all going through the same things pretty much. But this past couple of years has been weird, and we've all divulged into different aspects of life because we had the time to do so. So this past record kind of had different things going on, and we all kind of brought that together to form Shine a Light on Me, Brother. And we all writing, so it's five guys in a room. Sometimes not every song makes it, and there's arguments about why this song isn't going to make it. And we're brothers, so brothers always argue at some point. But we love writing together, and I think we have a good team together, and it's just what we do.
So when you get together and write, I always have an interest in a group like yours where there's multiple voices coming together for these songs. Within the five of you, are there common pairings? Are there certain people that for whatever reason tend to fall in together and can write a song because they just have that sort of vibe that makes it work easier? Do you come by yourselves with songs and then let the group sort of finish them as a whole?
Yeah, that's all correct. Last Night on the Highway, Steve and I were sitting on his porch quite a bit during that period of time, and we would be coming up with it's more of an idea, or a hook, and then we bring it to everyone, and then everyone kind of figures out, okay, well, this is where a verse should be, and stuff like that. But we want the songs to mean something, and we want the songs to say something, and at the same time, we want them to be enjoyable. We're not as artsy enough to just put some weird shit out there that we don't want to listen to. So we want to make sure that we're also doing, the song justice enough to have it be memorable and to have it be listened to. And some songs that you can have a great riff, but if you don't have that good hook, then that riff kind of sits on the side until you bring it back into this other thing, which happens all the time. We have a new track on the record called Movin', and we had this riff that Henry came up with that we couldn't figure out what to use, and then all of a sudden he just played it on this new track, and we're like, that's it. Little things like that. But yeah, it doesn't matter if all five of us are there, if three of us are there, or maybe just two. We all bring it back into the band before we ever say it's done. Because we don't want to just bring a song in and be like, hey guys, here it is, it's done. Okay, well, I'll just play drums to it. We don't like to do that.
Robert, you mentioned coming up with hooks, and I think that's one thing that really stands out to me about your music. You guys are known as kind of a blues rock band, but when you talk about blues rock music, it's not necessarily something where you're thinking about bands that are coming up with hooks all the time. But listening to your music, you guys do have a lot of hooks. How much of that is a conscious effort to be like, hey, we got to come up with a hook, every song that's really strong, that's going to pull people in?
I would say it's on the forefront. Most of the songs that we end up putting together, we usually have the hook first and then work around that hook to create what the song needs to support it. And every song's different, so it's not every single song we have the hook first, but most of the time we want to make sure the hook's there and good, and we believe in it to then provide the foundation for that hook, opposed to the other way around. But sometimes the other way around works as well. Songwriting is its own entity that is sometimes doesn't, I've heard interviews with, Chris Stapleton and everything like that. And he's like, it's just a lightning bolt, that comes down sometimes, and it just hits you in the head, and you have no idea why you're singing what you're singing, why it's working, but it's working, it's just something in your brain that triggers.
So do you feel like the best songs come to you quickly then?
I think so. For me personally, I think some of the best songs are the ones that just come to you, and you just sit on the guitar, and the first thing that comes out is what ends up being the song. I think for me personally, if I think too much, then my brain goes into a whole different world, and I have to just put it on I have to sit down and just walk away from it. If I start, putting too much thought and effort into something, because it probably is not worth it if you have to think too much.
Transitioning a bit in this idea of songwriting into the new album coming out on September 3rd, Shine a Light on Me, Brother. 2 songs in particular, I'd like to ask what the inspiration was behind them. And those songs are Brother and Anna Maria. Share with us, if you care to, what inspired those 2 particular songs, because they're tremendous.
Thank you. Brother was inspired. A close family member of the band struggles with mental illness, and it's not something that was all of a sudden. It's always been there, and I think that there's a lot of mental illness all over the world, and it's something that people either refrain from talking about or don't know how to talk about it, so they don't. And it was basically our version of shining the light. Well, no pun intended. Shining the light on that topic, which I think is something that's not easy to do in a song, especially from a band like us. So it's definitely a very, very personal song to the band, and it's real. It's not a story. But just to shine I kept keeping that, just to shine a light on mental illness and how real it is, and how it's not easy to deal with, and you need to have the support around you to deal with those things. And Anna Maria is just a different song of how we put it together, and the rhythm to it. I always called it the pirate song, just because of the dun 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 dun, because it's just fun. And that was kind of a brainchild of Steve and Andrew, and Steve Major, our keyboard player, and Andrew Spatman, our drummer. And that was one of those songs that we started working on and wanted to push forward with, and it took a little bit of effort, but it turned out to be one of those tracks that just kind of takes you by surprise. It took me by surprise. So that's just the story of Anna Maria.
One of the tracks I want to ask you about is Chicago, because that track has a really big sound. How did that one come together?
Yeah, that one's kind of a true story as well. Some relationship that happened over the pandemic course of this past couple of years. And we're playing it in the room, and we started hearing that dum, 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 all that old Motowny feel, and we put it together, and we it was kind of on the fence, and we decided that it needed those horns. And once those horns were brought in, the 504 horns from New Orleans, once they got their hands on it, man, that song soared. and it kind of created a whole new version of that song for us, at least for our ears. And yeah, it's one of the great tracks on the record, and I just can't wait for people to finally hear the whole thing once it's out, and experience it for themselves, and to hear the reaction just like I'm hearing right now. It's great.
Talk a little bit about how the production and the conception of this album was different, or maybe it was the same as albums in the past, having to be through the pandemic. And I'm guessing that some things were a little bit more tricky. Talk a bit about the way this album came together from a production standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty similar. Throughout the pandemic, we as a band stayed together. We were, you know, when it first happened, you know, in those first few weeks of lockdown and no one knew what was going on, we kind of stayed to ourselves and would just do, you know, Zoom online of everything. But then it got to the point where, you know, we got to get in the room together. I mean, we're not going to let this slide, you know. So we as a band were still in the room together. We were still writing. We were still rehearsing, even though we had no shows on the books. But we took that time to, you know, really work on the craft of being a musician and being a songwriter. And so we had a lot more time to be together and write songs, because we had no shows and we didn't have much going on. You know, we didn't have a time crunch that said, cool, this album needs to be done in 6 weeks, let's get to it. It ended up being like that, but that's just because how we're used to working. Yeah, as far as production goes, you know, we write the songs together and we get them to the point where, you know that they're ready to go. What was different about this time is usually we have a couple local bar gigs, or, you know, just out and about, and we get to play these songs before we ever record them, to kind of feel the crowd and feel the energy, and like, okay, this part of the song needs to expand because that energy was going so well that we just need to push it, you know. We didn't have that this time. So we kind of went in, for us, I mean, a lot of us do it that way, but for us, we usually like to play them live a couple times to see how they feel. And this time we didn't have that. So we went into the studio and just recorded the songs, how we wrote them and how we felt like they should be. And that was a little difference in production. But as far as the studio, we worked with a good buddy named Jeff Frickman in Burbank, Sonic Groove Studios. And he has a house studio. It's a legitimate home studio. I mean, Andrew's in the living room, Steve's in the kitchen, I'm in a bedroom. It's just really comfortable, and we've been working with them on the past few records. And we just went up there for a couple days and laid everything down, and it felt natural. It felt like we weren't in a pandemic at the time, just because how it worked. And this album as well, we used the 504 horns on, and the background singers from Australia, which are always great. So yeah, as far as production goes, it was just, we couldn't go out and play these live, especially after we recorded them. You know, we couldn't go out and play them live for a few months, which is always weird because you just recorded and you can't, you know, present them in a way that we want to. So that was definitely the difference. But we're excited to be back out on the road in a week or so, and get into playing live again.
You guys write songs that are really accessible, songs that I feel like are pretty radio friendly. Obviously today, especially playing blues rock type of music, it's almost impossible to get on the radio today. So for you guys, I mean, how much of an emphasis do you have on trying to get radio play, or is there more emphasis on just trying to get on major playlists like on Spotify?
Good question. Yeah, we've been around for a decade, but we're still learning, you know, ifs, ands, or buts around what radio means. We have a great team in the UK, and so we get a lot of radio out there, which we thank them for. Thank you to Planet Rock, and also, you know, French National Radio, and in Europe, there's a lot of radio that's helping us out and supporting what we do. We've tried little things here in the States, and we got a little traction, but not a lot going on. So, you know, radio is just a weird thing. I mean, either you got the bucks to do it, or someone's behind that song that you have no idea about, and that's why it's there. And so, you know, radio's been good to us over in the UK and the EU. And so we keep focusing on that and pushing that forward instead of trying to open up a whole new, can of worms and figuring it out here in the meantime.
You guys,
but I do think it's very important.
You guys also do a little bit of podcasting. How did that come about? Why do you do that? Was it for more to interact more with audience and fans, or was it a platform for you guys to get to talk with each other about topics? And do you feel like it helps to talk about music and get your band out there?
Yeah, the origin of it was that we were on the road, and we can post pictures of every show, but no one's feeling what's actually going on. And so we decided to go live on Facebook, just the 5 of us, and just hang out for an hour or 45 minutes, and just engage with fans and talk to them and just say say hi, say what's going on. With this age, we have that ability now, and it keeps people, up to date on what we're doing. And then we said, well, if we're going to sit around and talk for an hour on Facebook, we might as well record it and then release it, and then someone's like, well, that kind of sounds like a podcast. And, oh, okay. So we started doing that, and it started out, we weren't as regimented, we were just trying to figure it out, what segments would be, and everything like that. And I think we were trying to do it as often as we could, but once the pandemic hit and we literally had nothing else going on, it was a great way. And we took it a little bit more seriously. I mean, every Monday we do it. And I think we're at 104 episodes now. We kind of took it a little more seriously. And since we were doing it remotely from our homes, instead of all 5 of us wherever we were, we get to hang out with all of our friends who are great musicians and interview them and just, shoot the shit and chat, especially when we can't go see them on tour. And it also helped, being able to interview people, from the UK, from Nashville, from New York, Florida. It gave us an outlet to do that. And so we're still doing it. We still have fun. I think it's still a great way for us to engage with everyone who might not be able to come see us within the next month or so. And it's been fun. We're trying new and different things every time we have a chance to. So it's been good. And we won't be stopping. We just have to figure out how to do it.
How helpful was that for you guys during the pandemic? When everyone was pretty much in lockdown, couldn't go anywhere, the fact that you guys could stay connected in that manner?
Oh yeah, I think it was super helpful. I think it also gave the fans some encouragement that we're still a band, some bands didn't make it. Some bands just kind of didn't post anything and just waited for it to be over. I guess we all still are. But it was just our outlet. We could, I'm not a huge fan of live streaming because I don't feel the energy back from the fans that are watching. I'm just looking into a camera and hoping that people are enjoying it. And the energy that I get from the crowd is really what fuels how we play. We don't do the same show twice, and we don't, we songs go however they want to go. And when you're live streaming, you don't feel that energy. So I was more into just sitting and being ourselves and talking and hearing questions and everything like that. And we've done we did a live podcast a couple of weeks ago for our 100th episode, which was really fun, at our local venue down here in Costa Mesa called the Wayfarer. And we've done a couple only for Europe, just because it's a time change weird thing. And so it's I am rambling, so I forgot what you actually asked me.
You answered it. No, you answered it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, the new album comes out, Shine a Light on Me, Brother, on September 3rd. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah. If you haven't gotten it yet, we still have the pre-order packages, which are really cool. We have some, only limited edition stuff in those pre-order packages, which you can find on robertjohntherec.com. And we'll be out in Europe in less than a week. And we'll be out there for, I think, 6 weeks or so. So if you're out there, come see us, come to shows. And if you're not, we'll be doing a pretty large Midwest, East Coast tour at the end of October into November here at the States. which we're just excited to be back on the road and excited to play both records that we haven't got to tour on, Last Light and Shine a Light. So we're excited, and we hope to see everybody out on the road.
Awesome. So go check that out. Willie and I both have already heard the album. It's fantastic. So go check that out. It comes out on September 3rd.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
All right. That's going to wrap up this week's edition of the Blues Rock Show. For Robert John and Willie Witten, I'm Pete Francis. We'll see you next time.